So, first of all, I'm originally from Tel Aviv. I've been living in San Francisco for the last 6 years. And the topic for today is making math social, and I would even add, let's see if it works, and fun. And I'm sure that many of you in the audience, the last thing you think about when you think about math is anything fun or social. And you're right, it could be a quite intimidating subject to many, more so in the Western world. But this is exactly the challenge that my business partner, Stefan, and I decided to take a little over a year ago when we founded MindKick. MindKick, Kickstart Your Mind. We focus on brain training games that boost your brain. And what we did when we started a year ago, we looked at the landscape of many puzzle games, word game, etc. And I'm sure you're familiar with some of those games, Word with Friends, Scramble, etc., that are great games and did a phenomenal job of integrating social mechanics into them. So in the word category, there's a lot of successful games. I'm sure some of you played many of them. But when we looked at numbers specifically, aside from Sudoku, which everybody knows, there's not much. And if you go in both on Android and iOS and you look into math apps, numbers, what you find is typically very low production apps. You find a lot of math-related apps that actually did a great job on the graphics and on the animations, but they really are a digital textbook, so they're not really fun. And the majority do not integrate any social. No leaderboards, no PvP, player versus player, no contests. And I'm not talking, the theme of this talk, this panel is kids and family. So we're not addressing the kids, we're addressing 12 years old and more and family. So put aside the COPPA regulations, there's really not much there. Now, if you do find something that is decently made, the 99% of the times the model is like sell the app for a one-time fee, right? So there's no freemium games in that genre. And that's where we saw the opportunity. Now, as Monica shared, in 2012, I joined Tango as their VP Games and BD. And in that role, I actually asked to design my own game, or our own game, and I led the development and the design of Road Riot, which became a very, very successful game. We just crossed 25 million installs, and this game has been very lucrative for the last almost 24 months. And working on this game, you really get to feel firsthand, some of the mechanics that work and doesn't, and do not work. And for us, as we're going and tackling the math subject, the thing that we asked ourselves is, can we combine some of the stuff that we saw working so well in Road Riot with stuff that we know about, the game mechanics that we know that work well in other games that I'm personally very inspired by, 2 dots on the bottom right, Bike Rival, and obviously Candy Crush. Can we take some of those components and adopt them into math, which could be quite challenging. So we made a lot of assumptions, before I'll present the game. And today, the purpose of this talk is for the game developers in the crowd, if there's any, is, we made a lot of assumptions when we started a year ago. Some of those assumptions were spot on, and some of them we missed, and we're currently in the process of either fixing or tuning the game, etc. So the purpose of today's talk is actually to share with you few mechanics, a few features, and I'll distinguish between the one that we're spot on and are doing amazing because we just soft launched the game in Singapore, but more importantly is to share the one that we were wrong and that we're in the process of fixing. So let's start first of all about a quick introduction about the game, and I'll try to show a video. The name of the game is Numeris. Numeris means numbers in Latin, and the idea is basically you play, you have fun, it's addictive, but you certainly feel all the time that you're boosting your brain power. It's an intense game. It's not a game that you can, drink or talk to friends. It's like you're fully focused. And before I show the video, there's a saga map with hundreds of levels, and every puzzle, usually there are 9 numbers and 3 equations, and you have to scan the 9 numbers and try to solve as quickly as possible. The faster you solve, the more coins you earn. So in this case, imagine the 12, 9, 21 were on the bottom. You scan and you start to plug them in. And there's also a time bomb on the side to create a more intense urgency. And the trick is that even if you solve the first equation, and even if you solve the second one, not always the third one would add up. So you actually not just have to know your math, you have to scan and plan ahead and say this would work here, this would work here. And often as you do this, you see in the middle, it says you have 37 moves left. Every time you touch a tile, you lose a move. And we're already seeing that the #1 revenue generator for this game in Singapore is people are buying moves to complete the puzzle. So what we've done is we basically designed a game that has both a single mode, where you go on a saga map and you go to hundreds of levels, and every level introduces new complexity. If you think about math, it's basic math, but there's like square root and parentheses and negative numbers and decimals, and as you go, it's becoming more challenging. And at some point, we even introduced to tease you with your right side of the brain. Instead of, for example, writing a number like 11, we wrote it in English, 11. So now you're suddenly dealing with both letters and numbers, and every time you progress, there's always something challenging for your brain. There's the single mode, but also we integrated a full PvP. So I can go right now and pick you and say, let's bet that I'm faster than you in math. And I'll put like 20 coins, and the game would generate a random matrix of like 9 numbers. I'll solve it, let's say in 10 seconds, and then you'll receive a push notification, and you can accept it anytime you want. You know, you have 48 hours to reply, and then you'll play, and you did it in 8 seconds. So now it's 1-0 to you, and if you can see here, I'm playing with Stefan. The first puzzle I solved in 4.8 seconds, he did 5.4, so it's 1-0 to me. And then we go back and forth until the first person reaches 3 points, and then you win the reward. So it's really like a math battle. So now, that's the game. Soft launch in Singapore 2 months ago. Unfortunately, Monica, we're not going to launch today in Israel because we just got rejected for some reason, which I'll explain. So it's only live in Singapore, but day 1 retention, 45%. And for you that are familiar with the term, it means that 45% of the people that have installed the game in Singapore came back the next day to open the game and played it. One of the most astonishing stats is the 62% App Store conversion. So we're running right now a banner in Singapore that says, are you quick? Question mark. Challenge your friends. And people click on that banner. It's around 1% click-through rate. But from those that click on it, 62% install the game. And probably the most surprising data, or 2 of them, is that we have over 70% organic growth. So let's say we bought 1,000 users, then more than 1,700 people that came. And as you can see here on the banner, almost 3.5 times more women are playing this game than men in Singapore. And this is just one typical banner that we ran, and you can see the exposure. Most of the people are 18 to 24, and the ratio between women and men, 520 to 170. So it looks promising, but as I said in the beginning, some of the things work and some of the things were not on. And what I would like to more focus on today is what did not work, or what we're currently fixing. And I'm really, I'm going to try to give you an insight as a game developer of some of the most surprising stuff that we found. So let's start with leaderboards. It sounds very straightforward and basic, leaderboards, but it's not. The game that we were inspired by, I personally love this game, is Bike Rivals. Bike Rival is a motorcycle game. You see the saga, and there's courses, and you can play by yourself or against others. And as soon as you download the game and you play it for the first time, you get a score. So I completed it, in this case, in 23.6 seconds. And immediately it shows you there's 2 leaderboards. There's a globals and there's friends. And I'm ranked in the world 513,173. And it's okay, you know. It did not discourage me. I was fine with that. And we'll talk about it in a second. So we actually adopted the same exact leaderboard in our game, in Numeris. And as a matter of fact, you can see right now, this is my own saga map, and you can see where my friends are stuck. And if I clicked on level 1, you can see that right now I'm number 2 in the world after playing hundreds of times. There's still this Megan Chua from Singapore that I was not able to beat because I think that she's, you know, phenomenal. But the problem is, and this is what I want to talk about, is that one of the biggest feedbacks that we found from our Singaporean users and users in general is that they hate this leaderboard. And the reason they hate it and they find it very, very demoralizing is because when you download the game and you play it and you think you're good in math and you just solve it in 7, 8 seconds, and then you see thousands of Singaporeans in this case above you in 2, 3 seconds, it really makes you feel like an idiot, correct? It's like, and with a bike game, maybe it's okay because it's virtual and you know that nobody is riding a bike, but this is math. This is supposed to reflect something about your smarts. So I would certainly say that this is probably the biggest mistake we've done in designing this game. As we speak, my partner Stefan and a few other engineers are in the process of fixing that, and what we decided to do, we decided to actually do a segmented leaderboard. So as soon as you play for the first time, let's say I scored 10 seconds, I will only show 25 people, more or less around your time. I'm going to put you around the middle. And I'm going to say the person that will win this leaderboard by the end of this week will receive a cash reward. Okay, so there's like a contextual, segmented leaderboard with something fun. And you can see like people, it's much more intimate, correct? You're just you and 25 people. I'm not showing you the thousands of people out there. And the person that would win this leaderboard would move to another leaderboard. So that's probably going to go live in the next 2, 3 weeks. But that's certainly something that for you guys that are developing games, I would encourage to think about. And I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense to have a global permanent leaderboard. I'm just saying for a skill-based game, especially one that reflects your smarts, that was a mistake for us to do. And I wish I knew that before because we spent a lot of time on this module. Next, I want to talk about the difficulty curve. Now, this is true for a lot of games, but again, as you saw the Saga map, we're designing for every level a puzzle. And the way the game is controlled by an external JSON file that I can go in and say, I want in level 5 to be just division, and the range of numbers would be between 1 and 10. Now, obviously, the range of numbers is the one that controls the difficulty primarily, including also the math signs. So we designed the game, and I've been playing this game for over a year. I became a math whiz. It's really incredible what this game does to you. And when it's launched in Israel, I encourage you to download it because it really, really boosts your mental math. And most of us are rusty. But at some point, I was designing the curve, and I thought, this is pretty cool. This is decent. And then we launched in Singapore 2 months ago, and we got a lot of feedback that the difficulty curve is way too hard. And it definitely affected the retention. Kind of similar to what happens with the leaderboards. You play level 1, level 2, things are easy, and suddenly level 5, you already have square roots, and you have power, and you have brackets, and the number gets big. And we really did not think that it's going to be so hard, Stefan and I, when we designed this game. So what you see here from our analytics dashboard, this actually reflects currently, as the game is, the number of failures per level. So you see level 1, level 2, level 3, and 4, there's more failures. And you can see that we still have a problem around 12. Level 12 should be harder, and actually there's a very little number of failures there. And ideally, as we tune and we test it, you want to create kind of a sense of like it's getting harder, and then it's getting slightly easier, and getting harder and easier, at least for this version of the game. In the future, we're thinking about making this adaptive. So that means that if we realize that you fail a lot, we would just make the range of numbers smaller. So the recommendation here is when you design a difficulty curve, make sure that you don't design it for yourself, because we thought that it was like easy and normal, and then we were definitely surprised to see how many people complain that the game is too hard and still too hard. So that's the second thing that I would say that we did not do right. Last one from a different complete category. So again, I'm using the example of Bike Rival. When you download Bike Rival and you go to the quick tutorial, as soon as you're done playing the first course, this push notification, Apple notification comes up. Would you like to send notification? Don't allow an OK. So a lot of games do that, and we have adopted the same thing in Numeris. And we were surprised to see that we got 92% rejection. So only 8% of the people approved that. And again, mistake. Now this is 100% I would recommend for all games, because if you click don't allow, this message will never come back. Apple will never bring it back. This is my first time I'm playing. Why would I approve push notification? It doesn't really make sense. So what we've done with Numeris, we bring this message, not this one, another one, later in the game, after you already had a taste of it. And we say, this is the benefits that you get from push notifications. Approve or not now, later, not no. And then if the person says not now, later, it will come up in the next session. And only if he says yes, then we'll bring the Apple message. So quickly, this is the things that we did not do right. I have 5 minutes left, so I'll just talk quickly about the things that we did right, spot on. The reason I mentioned we have great virality is because in order to move from world 1, which is the space world, to the desert world, you need to either have 24 stars or you need to go and invite and play with 2 friends, Facebook friends. And people are lazy in general, and people, most of them, when they complete world 1, they have around 10 or 11 stars, which is related to the difficulty curve. So a lot of people we see right now in Singapore are actually preferring, instead of going back and playing, in order to unlock the lock, to go and invite 2 of their friends and doing a challenge. And I think this is a very smart decision, and we may at some point even increase it to like have 3 friends come in to unlock World 2. So highly recommend when you have unlocking worlds and levels to consider this one. Next one, monetization and time pressure. In Road Riot, when we designed the game, when you crash the car, you have exactly 3 seconds to decide under a timer. Do you want to buy more coins to continue to drive your car, or the game is over, you have to restart? So introducing time urgency at this critical point was a very smart thing with Road Riot. We did the same thing with Numeris. When you run out of moves, you have exactly 3 seconds to decide yes or no, and if not, you have to start the puzzle all over. Smart decision. We're already seeing the results of it. And finally, one of the biggest debates that we had internally with Numeris is the game could have been going out to the market already 6 months ago, just with a single mode. So you have a beautiful saga map and hundreds of levels and achievements, no ability to play against each other. And we were debating among ourselves, should we release it, or should we take the time, which is quite a big undertaking, to do a PvP, more than 6 months, and release the PvP. And we decided to do this. So I can go right now and pick Megan Chua or anyone in the world and say, I'll bet you for 20 coins or 10 coins that I'm faster than you, and we will start playing. And I must say that so far, just based on Singapore, that was the smartest decision we've taken, because we're already seeing that the retention of the people that, as soon as somebody does a PvP, they're like 3 or 4 times more likely to stay and come back, because there's a lot of push notifications coming in, and suddenly the game is not just through the saga maps, there's a real challenge, and you want to brag when you win someone. So that was an awesome decision, and we're already seeing this taking off in Singapore. Our hope is obviously in the next month or 2, we're going to fix those issues that I spoke about. We're going to optimize the difficulty curve. We're adding chat right now. So there was actually a check. The reason we were rejected a few days ago by Apple, I was supposed to open in Israel right now, is because we introduced chat, but we didn't introduce removing spam user or blocking user. So that's why Apple rejected us. So we're introducing that. But wish us luck, because this game is coming out towards the end of the year, and it's obviously not fitting a broad audience as the words games, but number lovers in the world, Sudoku lover, etc. It's quite a significant niche. So we obviously hope that this game will be a hit. Thank you.
If you had any questions while he was talking, that was the question. That was the answer.
Singapore, surprisingly or not, they've been ranked in the last 7 years the #1 country in the world when it comes to math exams, matriculation exams. It's among the highest mobile penetration in the world. Everybody speaks English. They love to play games. And the CPI is decent. So right now, we're targeting part of the Facebook campaign is people that are chess lovers, brain teasers, Lumosity, if you're familiar with this app that improves your brain training, and the cost acquisition is decent. Before, it used to be Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, but now there's more shift towards Singapore and Nordic countries. At least that's what we heard.
The PvP, is that only from inside the game, or also like Facebook friends and other social media?
Both. So you can play a random opponent, that's #1. You can play somebody specific from the leaderboard that you don't know, or you can, if you Facebook connect, you can play among your friends.
And do you give anything for friends that connect through Facebook? Do they get any benefit?
Just the main benefit is that you can actually play with your friends. And one of the things that will be interesting to see, and we're also debating internally, there's not enough data, is would people prefer to play with their friends, or would people prefer to play with strangers? Because again, this is a reflection of your smarts, and especially there's a brag button. So if I keep winning you and we're friends and post it on Facebook, so that's something that we'll see. I think one thing just about the PvP that we're finding is that even though 3.5 more women are playing or downloading the game than men, the men tend to initiate much more PvP than women. So it's a generalization, but it seems like men are more competitive, and women tend to like play more in a single mode, or at least compete again leaderboard, but not one versus the other. Again, just Singapore. So people out, every single person, almost every single person we show the game to, our parents, the first thing they say, oh, I want my kids to play that. So we're seriously thinking about making another version, Numeris for kids, that we remove the square root and we remove the brackets and the percentages. Because right now when we designed this game, at least from our perspective, it was like more for adults. But we're seeing more and more interests from parents that their 12-year-old kids play that. So I think we'll need to modify it.
You have the upper grid and the lower grid. Are you using a drag movement or a click or
No, actually, unfortunately, I
both?
cannot see it by video, but it's actually, you tap the number and it immediately goes to its place. And if you did the wrong thing, you can just tap on the
By
top.
order? You do it by order, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
No, so once you tap a number, it will always go to the top left. And then you tap the next number, it goes to the second one. So it goes in order. And if you actually did something wrong, you can always tap a single number, or you can tap on the top left and everything will go back to 0 and you start from fresh. And I can show you the game after that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Oded.